the forbidden border. The conference chamber of the Zarvian Dominion stretched across 3 levels, each tier filled with military commanders whose scales shimmered under artificial lighting. Supreme Commander Kelrick stood at the center platform, his tall frame casting shadows across the holographic star map that floated before him. His species had ruled this sector for 8,000 years, and his confidence showed in every deliberate movement. Around him sat the Council of Expansion, 20 generals who had conquered more worlds than most civilizations would ever see. Their armor, forged from crystalline compounds found only in the cores of dying stars, reflected their status as the most feared military force in known space. Today, they had gathered to discuss a small matter that hardly seemed worth their time. "The survey is complete," announced General Thaxter, his voice resonating through the chamber. "We have located 42 resource-rich systems in the outer spiral arm. Preliminary scans indicate abundant rare minerals, 3 garden worlds suitable for colonization, and established infrastructure that we can repurpose." Kelrix nodded slowly, studying the glowing map. "And the current inhabitants?" "A species calling themselves humans," Thaxter replied, pulling up additional data. "They occupy approximately 40 systems. Their civilization is young by our standards, only 400 years of interstellar capability. Population estimates suggest around 15 billion spread across their territory." The generals murmured among themselves. 40 systems was nothing. The Zarvian Dominion controlled 12,000 systems across 6 galactic arms. These humans were insignificant, barely worth the fuel it would take to reach them. "Military assessment?" Kelrix asked. Thaxter's expression darkened slightly. "That is where the report becomes unusual. Commander, we have limited intelligence on their military capabilities. Multiple expeditions sent to observe their territory have failed to return." "Failed to return?" Kelrix repeated, his interest piqued. "How many?" 7 survey missions over the past century, each consisting of between 5 and 20 vessels. None have sent back any data after crossing into Terran space. The chamber fell silent. 7 missions, all lost without explanation. It was unusual, certainly, but not unprecedented. Space was dangerous. Equipment failed. Navigation errors happened. Still, 7 missions seemed excessive. General Vexra, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward. "There's another matter, Commander. The Intergalactic Assembly has issued a formal designation regarding human territory." Kelrix waved a dismissive hand. "The Assembly issues many designations. They have no authority over Dominion expansion. Nevertheless, you should hear it," Vexra insisted, activating a projection. Official symbols of the Assembly appeared, followed by text in multiple languages. "Terran space has been classified as a restricted zone under Protocol Sigma. The designation reads, any unauthorized entry into Terran territory will result in complete loss. This is not negotiable. This is not a warning. This is documented fact." Several generals laughed. The idea that a young species could threaten anyone, let alone the mighty Zarvian Dominion, seemed absurd. But Kelrix did not laugh. He had learned long ago that the universe sometimes held surprises, and dismissing potential threats was how empires fell. "What basis does the Assembly give for this designation?" he asked. Vexra pulled up additional files. Historical records. Over the past 4 centuries, 17 different species or coalitions have attempted to enter Terran space with hostile intent. The Korthax Swarm sent 4,000 ships. The Binding Collective sent 2,000. The Merchants Guild sent 800. Other smaller incursions number between 50 and 500 vessels. And Kelrix prompted. None returned. 0 survivors. 0 wreckage. 0 evidence of what happened to them. They simply ceased to exist after crossing the Terran border. The laughter in the chamber died away. 17 failed invasions was not coincidence. That was pattern. That was purpose. The Assembly believes humans possess defensive capabilities beyond our understanding, Vexra continued. They recommend complete avoidance of Terran space and suggest opening diplomatic channels before any contact. General Thaxter snorted. Defensive capabilities. They hide behind their borders and destroy anyone who enters. That is not defense. That is cowardice. They fear open conflict. Or they have nothing to prove, Vexor countered. A truly powerful species does not need to expand. They do not need to conquer. They simply exist secure in their territory. Kelrich considered this carefully. The Zarvian Dominion had built its empire through strength and conquest. They had faced countless enemies, from hive minds, energy beings to artificial intelligences. They had defeated them all. Could these humans truly be different? He studied the star map again, focusing on the human territory. 40 systems formed a rough sphere in the outer arm, far from major trade routes and galactic centers. The humans had chosen isolation, building their civilization away from others. Why? What were they hiding? Or what were they protecting? I want full analysis, Kelrich commanded. Review every scrap of data we have on these humans. Contact information brokers, check black market channels, search ancient archives. Someone must know something about their capabilities. Over the following weeks, intelligence officers compiled everything available about humanity. The results were frustratingly incomplete. Humans rarely left their territory. They did not trade with other species. They did not participate in galactic politics. They did not respond to diplomatic overtures. They simply existed behind their invisible wall, silent and separate. What little information existed came from ancient records, fragments of data salvaged from the edges of Terran space. Humans were carbon-based, oxygen-breathing, roughly similar in form to a dozen other species. Their technology appeared conventional, nothing obviously superior to Zarvian capabilities. Their ships used standard fusion drives and quantum communication. Nothing special. Nothing threatening. And yet, 17 invasions had failed. Thousands of ships had vanished. The Intergalactic Assembly had issued its highest level warning. Something did not add up. Kelrich called another council meeting. This time, the mood was more serious. The generals had reviewed the intelligence reports, and even the most aggressive among them seemed uncertain. We have a decision to make, Kelrich began. The resources in human territory are valuable. The strategic position of their systems would give us control over the entire outer arm. But the risks are unknown. Risks? General Thaxter challenged. What risks? We have the finest fleet in the galaxy. Our weapons can shatter moons. Our shields can withstand stellar radiation. What could these humans possibly do to harm us? That is exactly the question, Vexor said quietly. What did they do to the Korthax swarm? What did they do to the Binding Collective? What did they do to 17 different military forces, some of which matched or exceeded our own capabilities? We do not know that they did anything, Thaxter argued. Perhaps those fleets were destroyed by natural phenomena. Perhaps they encountered spatial anomalies. Perhaps they simply got lost. 17 times? Vexor's tone was skeptical. Across 4 centuries? With completely different species using completely different technologies? That is not probability, General. That is impossibility. Kelrich raised a hand for silence. I have made my decision. We will proceed with the operation, but cautiously. We will not send a full invasion fleet. Instead, we will send a probe force. 500 ships, enough to defend themselves, but not enough to threaten a full-scale war. 500 ships against 40 systems. Thaxter seemed pleased. More than sufficient. The fleet will be commanded by General Vorith, Kelrich continued, gesturing to a younger commander. His orders are clear. Enter Terran space, assess their defenses, and if possible, open communication. We will give them one chance to surrender their territory peacefully. And if they refuse? Vorith asked. Then you will demonstrate the consequences of defying the Zarvian Dominion, Kelrich replied. But, Vorith, listen carefully. If you encounter technology or capabilities you cannot understand, you will retreat immediately. Pride has destroyed many commanders. Do not let it destroy you. Vorith bowed. I understand, Commander. The fleet assembled over the following month. 500 warships, each capable of carrying thousands of warriors. Battle cruisers armed with plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. Carriers loaded with fighter craft that could swarm enemy vessels. Siege ships equipped with gravity weapons that could tear apart space stations. It was a force capable of conquering most civilizations. On the day of departure, Kelrick stood in the command center and watched the fleet prepare to jump. He felt an unusual sensation in his chest, something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. He pushed aside. The Zarvian Dominion did not fear. They conquered. That was their nature. That was their destiny. General Vorith, he transmitted, may your scales never dull. And may the Dominion expand forever, Vorith responded. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving trails of distorted light across the void. They would reach Terran space in 10 days. 10 days to prepare for whatever they would find. 10 days before the Zarvian Dominion discovered whether humans were truly as dangerous as the legend suggested. In the command center, Kelrix watched the empty space where the fleet had been. He did not pray. His species had abandoned such superstitions millennia ago. But if he had believed in higher powers, he might have prayed that his warriors would return safely. Because deep in his hearts, beneath layers of confidence and pride, he suspected they would not. The price of arrogance. General Vor stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Dominator's Fist, watching stars streak past as the fleet traveled through hyperspace. Around him, his officers worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. Everything was proceeding according to plan. In 9 more days, they would reach Terran space and begin the operation. Vorith was young for a general, only 300 years old. He had earned his position through brilliance in tactics and ruthlessness in execution. He had conquered 6 species during his career, adding their worlds to the Dominion's ever-growing territory. This mission would be his 7th victory, and perhaps the one that secured his place in history. His second-in-command, Captain Zylov, approached with a data tablet. General, I have completed analysis of the Terran border region. There are no defensive installations visible on our long-range scans. No orbital fortresses, no minefields, no patrol routes. Nothing. Vorith frowned. Nothing at all? The border appears completely undefended, sir. It is as if they do not expect anyone to challenge them. Or they have defenses we cannot detect. Vorith mused. Increase scanning frequencies. Use every spectrum available. I want to know what we are facing before we cross that line. Over the following days, the fleet conducted intensive scans of the Terran border. The results remained consistent. There were no visible defenses, no military presence, no signs of preparation for conflict. The human territory sat quiet and isolated, seemingly unaware or unconcerned about the massive fleet approaching. On the 8th day, something changed. Vorith was reviewing tactical plans when alarms sounded throughout the ship. Officers scrambled to their stations as warning lights flashed red. Report, Vorith commanded. We are receiving a transmission, General, the communications officer announced. It is coming from Terran space. Audio only. Put it through. Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice. It was human, speaking in perfect Zarvian language. The accent was flawless, suggesting either advanced translation technology or extensive study of their culture. Zarvian fleet, this is Terran Defense Coordination. We are aware of your approach. We are aware of your intentions. We are transmitting this message to give you one opportunity to reconsider your actions. The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to look at their general. The humans had detected them from 8 days away, through hyperspace, using technology that should not exist. You are currently on trajectory to enter Terran space, the voice continued. We must inform you that unauthorized entry into our territory is prohibited. This prohibition is absolute. There are no exceptions. There are no negotiations. Vorith gestured for his communications officer to respond. This is General Vorith of the Zarvian Dominion. We are claiming the systems under your control for incorporation into our empire. You will surrender peacefully, or you will be conquered by force. Choose wisely. There was a pause. When the human voice returned, it sounded almost sad. General Vorith, we do not wish to harm you or your fleet. We do not seek conflict with the Zarvian Dominion, but we cannot and will not surrender our territory. We have built our home here over 4 centuries. We have established our boundaries. Those boundaries will be defended With what? Vorth demanded. We have 500 warships. We have weapons that can crack planets. What do you have that can stand against us? General, we have sent the same message to 17 other military forces over the past 400 years. None of them listened. None of them believed us. None of them survived their entry into our space. We are telling you this not as a threat, but as documented historical fact. Please turn back while you still can. Several officers exchanged nervous glances. The confidence that had filled the bridge moments ago was evaporating like water in vacuum. But Vorth refused to show weakness. He had come too far to turn back based on words alone. You speak of history, he said coldly. The Zarvian Dominion has 8,000 years of history. We have conquered 400 species. We have never been defeated. Your warnings mean nothing to us. Another pause. Then the human voice spoke one final time. Then we are sorry, General. We truly are. You have been warned. What happens next is your choice and your responsibility. The transmission ended. The bridge remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, Captain Xyloth spoke. General, perhaps we should report this to Supreme Commander Kelrix. Seek additional guidance before proceeding. Guidance? Vortha's voice was sharp. We were given our orders. We will execute them. These humans are trying to frighten us with mysterious warnings and vague threats. It is psychological warfare, nothing more. They have no actual capability to harm us. But, sir, the 17 previous fleets are probably fiction, Vorth interrupted. Propaganda designed to make us afraid. I will not allow fear to dictate my actions. We continue as planned. The fleet exited hyperspace exactly on schedule, 2 days later. They materialized at the edge of Terran space, 500 warships arranged in perfect battle formation. Before them stretched the invisible boundary that separated Zarvian territory from human domain. Full sensor sweep, Vorth ordered. I want to know everything about what lies ahead. The sensors worked at maximum capacity, scanning deep into human territory. The results appeared on multiple displays throughout the bridge. What they showed made no sense. General, the sensor officer reported, confusion evident in his voice. I am detecting human ships. Hundreds of them, but they are not where they should be. Explain, Vorth demanded. The ships are inside our fleet formation, sir. They are interspersed among our own vessels. According to these readings, there are human ships within meters of every Zarvian warship. Vorth stared at the displays. It was impossible. They had just arrived. There had been no ships visible when they exited hyperspace. Nothing on sensors, nothing on visual confirmation. Yet now the readings clearly showed human vessels throughout their formation. Visual confirmation, he ordered. The external cameras activated, displaying the space around the Dominator's fist. At first, Vorth saw nothing but stars and familiar shapes of Zarvian ships. Then, as his eyes adjusted, he noticed something strange. The stars were moving, not naturally, but in patterns, flowing around invisible obstacles. Enhance Sector 7, he commanded. The image zoomed in, and suddenly Vorth could see them. Ships. Human ships. They were small compared to Zarvian warships, sleek and dark, almost invisible against the void. But they were there, dozens of them, floating silently among the Zarvian fleet like ghosts. How did they get there? Xyloth whispered. We would have detected any approach. Our sensors are the finest in the galaxy. Apparently not fine enough, Vorth said grimly. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, battle stations. Weapons charged. Shields to maximum. We have hostile vessels in our formation. Across the fleet, 500 warships prepared for combat. Gun ports opened. Energy built in weapon capacitors. Fighter craft launched from carrier bays. The Zarvian military machine prepared to demonstrate why they were feared throughout the galaxy. Target the nearest human ship, Vorth ordered. Fire when ready. The weapon's officer locked targeting systems onto a human vessel floating just 300 meters away. Plasma cannons, designed to melt through reinforced armor, charged to full power. The targeting computer confirmed acquisition. The firing solution was perfect. Firing, the weapons officer announced. Brilliant streams of superheated plasma erupted from the Dominator's fist, crossing the distance to the human ship in microseconds. The energy was sufficient to vaporize a small moon. Against a single ship, it should have been instant obliteration. The plasma beam struck the human vessel and simply stopped. They did not bounce off. They did not create an explosion. They did not even generate heat bloom. The energy just ceased to exist, as if it had never been fired at all. What happened? Vorath demanded. Did we miss? Negative, sir. Direct hit confirmed. But the target is undamaged. In fact, the weapons officer checked his instruments again. Sir, the target has not moved. It has not raised shields. It has not taken any defensive action. It is just sitting there. Vorath felt cold certainty settle into his chest. All ships, open fire. Concentrate fire on the human vessels. Use everything we have. 500 warships unleash their arsenal simultaneously. Plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic missiles, antimatter torpedoes, gravity disruptors. Every weapon the Zarvian Dominion had developed over 8,000 years of warfare. The void of space erupted with enough destructive energy to sterilize entire solar systems. And none of it worked. Every weapon simply stopped upon contact with the human ships. The missiles detonated harmlessly. The energy beams dissipated. The gravity disruptors had no effect. It was as if the human vessels existed in a different layer of reality, untouchable by conventional physics. Cease fire, Vorath ordered, his voice hollow. Cease fire. The barrage ended. Silence returned to the bridge. The human ships remained exactly what they had been, dark and still, and completely undamaged. Not a single mark. Not a single scratch. They had absorbed the full might of the Zarvian fleet, without even acknowledging the attack. Then they began to glow. It started as a faint luminescence, barely visible against the darkness of space. But it grew brighter, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded Vorath of a heartbeat. Blue-white light emanated from the human ships, growing more intense with each pulse. General, Xylos said quietly, I think we should retreat. Before Vorath could respond, the voice returned. It filled every speaker on every ship in the fleet simultaneously, calm and infinitely sad. You were warned, General Vorath. You chose not to listen. Now you will learn why our borders are absolute. This is not punishment. This is not revenge. This is simply protection. We defend our home completely, or we do not survive. There is no middle ground. The light from the human ships reached its peak intensity. Vorath grabbed his command chair as a strange sensation washed over him. It felt like falling and flying simultaneously, like his body was being taken apart and examined piece by piece. What is happening? He shouted. Unknown, sir. An officer's voice was panicked. Our systems are being accessed. Everything navigation, weapons, life support, communications. Something is reading our entire database. Shut it down. Close all external connections. We cannot, sir. There are no external connections. It is just happening. The light pulsed one final time, blindingly bright. When it faded, everything had changed. Vorath looked at his displays and felt his heart stop. Half the fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Just gone. 250 ships had simply vanished from existence. Where are they? He whispered. Where did they go? The human voice answered. They are safe, General. We have moved them outside your ability to reach them. We wanted to speak with you privately, to help you understand what you face. Move them? How? Where? Location is irrelevant. What matters is that we could have destroyed them. We could have ended every life on every ship in your fleet in the time it takes your hearts to beat. But we did not. Do you understand why? Vorath could not speak. He simply stared at the empty space where half his fleet had been moments ago. We do not want to kill you, General. We never want to kill anyone. We are not warriors seeking glory. We are not conquerors seeking territory. We are simply people protecting our home. We developed our capabilities out of necessity, not ambition. The universe taught us that survival requires absolute defense. So we built absolute defense. What are you? Vorth managed to ask. We are human. We are the species that learn the hardest lesson the galaxy can teach. We learn that hope is not enough. Trust is not enough. Diplomacy is not enough. In a hostile universe, the only thing that protects you is the absolute certainty that attacking you will fail. We have made that certainty our reality. The human ships began moving, flowing to the Zarvian formation like schools of fish through water. They touched nothing, harmed nothing, but their presence was undeniable. You have one opportunity, General Vorth. Turn your fleet around. Return to Zarvian space. Tell Supreme Commander Kelrix what you have seen here. Tell him that Terran space is not to be entered under any circumstances. Do this, and your fleet will be returned to you intact. Every ship, every life. We will even repair any damage our demonstration caused. And if I refuse, Vorth asked, though he already knew the answer, then we will do what we have done 17 times before. We will protect our home. Your fleet will cease to exist, not through battle, not through warfare, simply through the reality of what we have become. It will be quick and painless, but it will be absolute. Vorth looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with fear and hope mixed in their expressions. They had families. They had lives beyond this mission. They had trusted him to lead them to victory, not to their deaths. He thought about Supreme Commander Kelrix, waiting back in Zarvian space for news of conquest. He thought about the glory he had imagined, the promotion he had expected, the place in history he had desired. Then he thought about the 250 ships that had vanished in a heartbeat, the weapons that could not touch the enemy, the technology that defied everything he understood about reality. And he made his choice. All ships. He transmitted to his remaining fleet. We are retreating. Set course back to Zarvian space. Maximum speed. The relief on his officers' faces was immediate and profound. Within minutes, the remaining 250 ships had turned and prepared to jump to hyperspace. As they did, space around them shimmered. The missing half of the fleet reappeared, exactly as they had been before vanishing. Not a scratch on them, not a system damaged. Go home, General. The human voice said one last time. Tell your leaders what you learned here. Tell them that our warnings are not empty threats. Tell them that we wish only to be left alone. If they respect that, there will be peace. If they do not, there will be consequences. The choice belongs to the Zarvian Dominion. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Terran space behind. As the stars stretched in reality bent around them, Vorth sat in his command chair and wondered how he would explain this to Kelrix. How could he make them understand what he had witnessed? The humans had not fired a single weapon. They had not destroyed a single ship. They had simply demonstrated power so absolute that resistance was meaningless. And they had done it while expressing regret, while offering mercy, while hoping for peace. Vorth had come seeking glory and conquest. Instead, he had learned humility and terror. He had learned that the universe was larger and stranger than he had imagined. And he had learned that sometimes the wisest choice is knowing when to walk away. The Zarvian Dominion would not conquer Terran space. Not today. Not ever. Because some borders were not meant to be crossed, and some species were not meant to be challenged. Humanity had built their fortress of solitude, and they had made it impregnable, not through cruelty or aggression, but through the simple, terrifying certainty that they would defend it absolutely. And the galaxy, slowly, was learning to respect that. If you love this story, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who loves epic sci-fi tales. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought about humanity's ultimate defense. We got more incredible HFY stories coming your way, so stay tuned.